Now then, it's been a while since we've done this, but I thought I'd take this opportunity just to chitty chat about the boat safety exam that we had done. It's a boat safety scheme, BSS, and basically it's safety checks on all the stuff that goes on in your boat. So I've written down a list of stuff that happened and what we did, and hopefully it should help you if you're needing to do a BSS anytime soon. Okay, to start with, when we bought Laura, she had a brand new boat safety certificate. It was done, I don't remember the name of the fella who did it, but it was done by Wilton Marina when we bought the boat. It culminated in us getting a new fridge and a new cooker because they were both unsafe. Now we have gas as a cooker, so as you can imagine, having leaky or not good appliances, leaky appliances, it's not great. It's not great for the for the boat. Okay, now if I leave a little thing down here, there is actually a website where you can download the actual requirements for your BSS certificate, all the things that need to be in order and that will be checked. There's a huge document which I downloaded and read most of it nearly. I got a bit bored, to be honest. But anyway, I gave it a good looking at, and I did do some bits and bobs before the examiner turned up. So what does BSS stand for? Well, it's Boat Safety Scheme. Basically, it does what it says on the tin. Why do we need that? Well, I think I've sort of explained a few bits and bobs. Your boat's got to be safe. Well, first of all, we need it for our insurance. We also need it for our license, which provides revenue for the CRT. I mean, we need it to be safe, obviously, so the boat's safe. So what happens if you don't get one? Well, if you're caught cruising the inland waterways without the necessary paperwork, CRT take a dim view of that, and they'll probably require you to remove your boat. And if you don't do it, they'll probably do it for you, eventually. Crumbs, that seems a bit harsh, you might say. But after seeing most of the abandoned boats on the waterways, you kind of can see why they do it. So the next thing you need to do is book a test. How do you do that? Well, I did it by looking on the Boat Safety Scheme website and picking out an examiner that was within my area. And where we were going to be was Falridge. So I thought I'll go as close to Falridge as I can. Now, luckily, the website has a big list of all the examiners, and it also has the areas that they work in. Each examiner has his own little address where he is based, and that's how I came to the conclusion that I needed to see the guy that was closest to me, and his name was Gary. I hope he doesn't mind me using his name, but he's Gary Smales. He was called Smales. Yeah, I think it's Gary Smales, and he is based near Falridge. Once you've picked your examiner and he meets all the requirements you need, and there are a few different requirements that you must figure out before you book them, you can use I phoned up Gary, and the internet was terrible where I was, and the phone signal, so it was quite a rigmarole getting hold of and booking Gary. He gave me a list of things that I needed. He gave me a list to fill in, which I mucked up. He also gave me how much it would cost for the examination. And all we had to do then was just await his arrival whilst chewing our fingernails to the quick. Now, I briefly touched about the things you can do to meet the requirements, and you download the big list and so on and so forth. Well, I'd done that, and I'd seen a few things that I already knew needed doing. One of them was signs, so I went round, made sure I had all the right signs, made sure my fire extinguishers were all in the right place, made sure my carbon monoxide monitor was working. So I did all those checks, checked everything, checked that my battery compartment was secured. So I have a lid on top, I have a metal box that my batteries sit in. I only have two. I have a starter, a leisure battery, and they sit within a metal box, and it has a wooden lid that goes on the top of it. So I made sure that was all in proper order and nothing was a problem. And my smoke detectors, I made sure that I had the smoke detector and it was in place, and as I say, the battery was working. The other things that I was looking at was to make sure that my gas locker was nice and clear and empty of any detritus or rubbish or water or anything like that. And also that everything that I thought he would need to look at, such as door vents, cupboards, engine room compartment, that were all clear, clean and easily accessible. I didn't want him to have to climb over things to get at stuff. Luckily, our bed is a lift-up variety, so I actually, in a previous video, I actually made it so it's like an ottoman bed now. So it's on gas struts, it lifts, and you can get easy access underneath the bed. Now, I bet you're all wondering, how did it go then? Did you actually pass, or was it a bit of a cock-up? And at first I thought it was going to be, because the day before, we'd both taken a shower, myself and Debbie had both taken a shower, and the water pump that takes the water away, the wastewater pump, broke. It's on a button, so you press a button and it sucks it all out. Anyway, it stopped doing that, and then it started blowing fuses, and then it started filling up with water and leaking everywhere. And I was like, oh no. Anyway, we have it in Laura, we had a backup, a spare that has been sat. We bought it with the boat. It came with the boat. So I managed to grab that and take it out. And I noticed that the last time I'd fiddled with it, I'd taken one of the hoses off and replaced it with another hose. And the box that I'd put it all in wasn't on the boat anymore. It was in Lancaster, which was about an 1.5 to 2 hour drive away from where we were. So I had to improvise, and I spent most of the morning of the test running around different shops trying to rig up something that would work. And I basically managed to do that. And I found out while I was talking to Gary, the examiner, that he didn't need to see that, so it wasn't really a big hassle. So I'd run around for nothing, spent about 12 quid as well on bits. And when I did press the button again, it did start sucking stuff out, but because it was I'd put a flexible pipe on, it was a bit of a hose pipe, to be honest. It closed up and it didn't work very well. It was very, very slow. And I thought, oh, but there we are. That wasn't a problem. The panic was over on there. The other thing that I hadn't really noticed, and I should have done before I did it, was that the vent covers that we had on, so the little mesh vent covers, you'll see in a minute, I've got pictures of them. In fact, I'll put it up now. The vents were full of dust, and I hadn't hoovered them beforehand. He recommended, the examiner recommended, that I take them off and just put the metal, take the mesh away and just put the metal bit in, which does leave it a little bit unsightly. And I have found a company that make covers that I can just put in, and they're timber. So I'm going to look into doing that, but I have noticed I've got a leak on my back vent. The other thing, which you will have seen me do in a previous video, was I had fitted a solar vent on the very front. And that is not actually the best thing to do, because it restricts airflow. When it's not working, it restricts airflow, which I hadn't factored in. I just thought, oh, it'd be brilliant, you know, it'll whir around, suck all the air out, brilliant. But I hadn't factored in this, when it's not actually working or turning, it's actually restricting airflow out. So if you're going to get one of those vents, make sure when you do it, you've got plenty of other vents that will all right, because it does make a big difference to the airflow rate. And if you can, make a different hole for that to go in, which is what I would do in hindsight now. I should have done that. Should have made just another hole, but there we are. We don't really like making holes in boats because they usually leak. The back one does anyway. So I just took those vents off, you'll see in the video, and hoovered them out and left the mesh covers off. It has meant that it looks a bit unsightly, but that can't be helped. I will get these special things that fit in, covers that fit in, and that should stop it looking so unsightly. In fact, Debbie's going mad because the front vent is slightly offset from the outside to the inside. Just don't like it all. He did actually mention to me that I could put a vent in the engine room door between the engine room and the bedroom, and also put small vents in the rear doors just to vent the cabin, the engine room compartment, which I think I might just do that. I think it's possibly a good idea. I'd probably use some round vents, and we'll see what we can get hold of. But I think that's a pretty good idea because it'll be good airflow through the boat. And when people say, "Oh, it'll make your boat drafty and cold and everything like that," when Debbie lights the fire, it can get up to astronomical. She's had it up to 54 degrees in there. I just thought, and I hate being that hot, so I don't mind sacrificing a little bit because we sleep in the back, so I prefer it to be cooler in the back, as does Debbie. So it won't really make any difference to us. The only time it'll really make a difference is if we mess up and the fire goes out overnight, which doesn't happen very often. We're quite good at keeping that fire going, and Debbie's quite good at making the boat really too hot. Lastly, something I completely forgot about actually, was I had a diesel cut-off switch badge on the boat somewhere, and I'd meant to put it on, and I'd been looking around for it, but with the water pump going, I'd forgotten about it. And that was missing because it had fell off, and I hadn't refixed it. So he picked that up and said, "You need a diesel cut-off switch sign in the engine room." And I also, after all the messing I'd done, I also forgot where the battery isolation switch was. And I wouldn't mind, but I was turning the isolation switch at the time when he was saying, "Where's the battery isolation switch sign?" And I was like, "Well, I've no idea, to be honest. I can't remember." And it was right underneath my hand, staring me in the face. So that's something else that I did. And I thought to myself, right, so I've bought some of those. I just cleaned up the battery isolation switch so it shows better. And that's all thing. I've actually fixed, you will see in a minute, I've actually fixed the fuel cock cut-off switch sign into the back of the engine room, finally. And this was something that I never expected, and something I really should have looked at. So the carbon monoxide monitor we got with the boat and was in fine working order. So I press the button, I check it regularly. I'm going to up it to once a month now because I found out that it's actually out of date, which I didn't know they went out of date. So luckily we bought another one, and that one was in date. So we've got two on there now. One is out of date and the other one isn't. Now you only need one on the size of our boat. Two is preferable. So we've got two now. The thing that we also didn't think of was placement. So we have it in the kitchen. Our old one was in the kitchen near the roof line. And Gary talked us through this, and he said, "It's not really the best place to have it." He said, "By all means, keep it there." He said, "But what you want is, you want a carbon monoxide monitor where you spend quite a lot of time, or, where you're sleeping, and you want it around about the same level as your mouth." And it makes sense that. So Debbie came up with the idea of putting it in the bedroom. So we've got it in the bedroom, and it is just stuck underneath the gunnels at around about the height that we sleep at, and it's right next to the engine room door. So if there's any issues at all, that will go off. Debbie will wake up, then she will rouse me, because I'll sleep through it. I sleep through hurricanes, me, and hopefully we won't come to any harm. So that was a really good thing to look at. I haven't got a photograph of that. I don't think I have anyway, but I may well have. I probably haven't. But at some point, ask me in the comments and I'll do a picture of it where we put our carbon monoxide monitor and tell you all about how wonderful it is and everything like that. So that really was the main thing that was sort of like, oh, that's a failure. Anyway, Gary was very, very good to us. He was very professional and he was extremely thorough. He tested all our gas appliances thoroughly and was very impressed that they were all in good working order, no leakages. I suppose the last thing to say is did we pass? Well, yes, we did. After all that, everything was pretty much in good working order. He did pick up on those few little things. They were more guidance for us. The vents in the rear doors, you don't have to do it, he said, but it'd be better if you did. The placement of the carbon monoxide monitor, he said that would be good. He said don't throw away your old carbon monoxide monitor, it's still working. Keep it where it is, just turn the new one on, put that into the place. So that's what we've done. We've got it all in place. As for anything else that we need to do, the boat, he said, was in fine felt. Laura's a good little boat. She's, I think that's why we bought her. She's a good little boat. There's nothing too fancy with her, and nothing that can really go wrong that much, apart from engines. They always seem to be going wrong. Oh, don't mind me. Let's crack on with a few clips of what I did after Gary had gone to make sure that everything was spot on. Oh, before I go, remember to give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And then remember, if you click that little bell icon, YouTube will mither you next time we release one. All right, go and have a look at what we did. Okay, time to get this fitted. Just there. Probably just that bit there.